Do you know the difference between an annual and a perennial? What about the characteristics of warm and cool season crops? Well, if you are planting a garden this spring, those are some terms that you're going to want to brush up on.
Yeah, we're brushing up right now with Emily Swihart. She's a horticulture educator with the Illinois Extension. Emily, welcome back.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yes, always a pleasure to have you because we always learn something new.
Yeah.
Morgan and I, not much.
We don't know.
Not much of gardeners here. But now is a good time to brush up on these terms just so we don't get frustrated or do things incorrectly as we're planning our planting here for the spring.
Yeah, this is a little nerdy, doing some vocabulary lessons.
No.
Yeah.
But it's really important because I've heard some of these terms, people confused by them and the meaning of them, and I don't want people to end up with something either they don't want or just get frustrated because of a misunderstanding. So let's clear up some of the common ones today.
Yeah, okay.
So first, annual, biennial, and perennial.
Yes.
Okay, so you would think annual might mean a plant comes back every year.
That's what I initially thought.
Yeah, it does not.
No.
It completes its life cycle
one and done.
in 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so it germinates, grows foliage, develops a flower, sets seed, and then it dies. So this is one and done. Yep.
Okay.
Biennial, and this one you won't see very often, but it's important to know that it exists.
Yeah.
So things like a hollyhock, there's some carrot family members that are biennials, but this is a 2-year life cycle.
Oh.
So they will germinate and develop foliage in the first year, but you won't see a flower. That goes in the second year.
Okay.
And so they'll overwinter and then grow and develop a flower in the second year. A perennial lives for 3 or more years.
Okay.
Yes.
That varies. So some are very short-lived, so it would be just a 3-year perennial. Others live for decades, like
I need more
woody
of those.
trees,
Yes.
right?
I need more of those that
Yep.
just like pop out and I didn't have to do anything.
Not as much work.
Yes.
Yep, and you can see, so this is one thing I want people to be cautious of. So you'll see it on plant tags, and they, garden centers oftentimes have annuals and perennials kind of segregated, in different sections, except when it comes to seeds. So you can see on these flower packets, they have this little label up top.
Yeah.
Let's see right there. And so one of them says, oh, there we go. They're beautiful flowers. One says annual, one says perennial. So just be careful because your annuals you can experiment more with. You can kind of put them in like a container or in like a, maybe fill in a spot, and you're not committed to it for long term.
Right.
Whereas perennials, you want to be a little more careful.
Coming back.
About where you put it, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so moving on, we want to talk about how to plant our selected species. So what does direct sow and transplant mean?
Yes, okay, so some plants need either a longer growing season, so they just take longer to mature, or we just like to have a harvest sooner. So those would be things that you would want to transplant. These we're planting, this is not the horticultural term, but I like to think of them as baby plants.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are plants we're putting in the ground. They're seedlings.
Okay.
And so they're started, some of them are started right now, others will be started a little bit later.
Okay.
Like tomatoes. Right, tomatoes, and you'll see on the package it says, start seeds indoors in a sunny location 6 weeks prior to warm weather.
Oh.
So if you get a seed packet that says that, you need to plan to start them indoors early.
That sounds complicated.
Other things like, you can get them at garden centers too. They'll do the work for you.
There we go.
good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we like
Yep.
that.
So other things will say like seed directly outdoors on the seed packets on the back. I tried to highlight it for folks. That means just put it in the soil. It will either not tolerate transplant or it'll just grow so quickly that we can put them in the soil when the weather warms.
I'm surprised.
And they'll grow.
It's always a surprise.
Yeah, yep. Seed packets will tell you a lot of information.
Okay.
All right. Can we talk about tomatoes?
Let's do it.
I would absolutely love that. Mine
All
did not grow last year.
Okay. Oh, one more thing, days to maturity. So you'll see that on packets. That is the from the date of planting. All right, and so just days to harvest. So for the winters, the squash that I have here, it says 90 days. That is from the time you plant the seed. So or plant the transplant.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't need to know when the transplant was started.
Days to harvest, or I see it. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk about probably everybody's favorite garden plant, or most people's favorite garden plant, the tomato.
Yes.
Everyone loves a fresh
I'm
tomato.
very disappointed.
They are. We'll work
Listen
on
carefully.
it. We'll work on it.
I could be calling you
That's fine.
every day.
So tomatoes. So there are, dozens of different varieties, different types. What I want everyone to understand right now is that they will all say either determinate or indeterminate. All right. So we have 2 different types of tomatoes here.
Yes.
I'll show folks. All right. We've got a paste tomato, aroma, very popular, and then we've got slicer, black crim, an heirloom cultivar. So you can see on the back. I'll give you each one of those. It says determinate or indeterminate.
Yes.
Okay.
The determinant. So what you have here with the aroma.
the aroma is determined.
Those plants will grow to a predetermined size. like it's determined by the genes of the plant, but
Okay.
it grows to a size and then it stops growing and sets fruit. The advantage of this is that it can be in a smaller, like a smaller site,
Right.
and it won't take over, a garden area. And you get a harvest all at once. So you can, like with Romas, a lot of times we use them for canning.
Yeah.
Sure.
You can have all of your tomatoes kind of come ripe at the same time.
Okay.
With the indeterminate plants, these keep growing throughout the season, so they can get quite large.
Sure.
18,
Okay.
20 feet in
Oh,
some
wow.
cases.
That's
yes.
something I want.
So they're going to need some staking, or you're going to need to accommodate this large plant over time in your
Yeah.
landscape. But they will give you a harvest throughout the season.
Okay.
So if you want an extended
That's what I want.
harvest,
Yeah.
you're going to want to look for those
I'm learning
indeterminate.
so much today.
All right, and you know what? On the back of these as well, it has a map of when you should start planting, which is helpful as well. So Morgan, for your tomatoes,
Yes.
Yeah.
April through June is when you want to start planting.
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
I did it too late
Yeah.
or something.
I don't.
We'll get to the
we'll
bottom
talk.
of
Yeah,
We'll talk.
we'll figure that out.
We're going to take that
We'll work on
offline.
But it does say, so there are these general maps on the back.
Yeah.
I still want people to be careful because even here, like April is a
Here
little
is
too early,
tricky.
is a little too
Definitely.
early.
Yeah.
So there's called the estimated frost-free date.
Yeah.
It is May 12th,
Sure.
approximately here, and that is when we kind of draw the line between your cool season crops and your warm season crops. Cool season crops can tolerate those cooler temperatures that we have here between now and then.
Okay.
Between 50 degrees and 75 degrees. These crops thrive in cooler soils and cooler daytime, nighttime temperatures. And there's a
Okay.
whole bunch of them listed
Oh,
there.
yeah.
They
Like your
will
veggies.
they will suffer actually in the winter or in the summer months. And so
Okay.
you're going to want spring and fall would be the seasons for those. Then in your warm season crops, these do not like those cooler temperatures that we
Okay.
have in the spring and the fall. So you want to plant those after the risk of frost is passed, and the warmer, soils have warmed and the daytime temperatures have warmed.
I'm glad you said
This is
that
good info.
last frost date of May 12th or so, because anytime I'm doing the weather around this time of year, I always tell people,
Yeah.
especially when we're forecasting 80 degrees tomorrow,
Yes.
don't get out in the garden.
Right.
Rule of thumb, wait till Mother's Day.
Yes,
Yeah.
You can start planting some of these cool season crops. It's a little risky. I'm going to go ahead and jump the gun and try like onions and a few of those,
Yeah.
knowing they might get hit by a hard frost later.
Right.
But I'll succession plant, and I'm not waiting
risk
because
you're
of your
willing to take.
because of your forecast,
Yes.
Kyle.
She's
but
an
it's
expert, though.
it's a risk
Yes.
I am willing to take.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Do it,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know
But I
how
will
it
hold off on the tomatoes and the squash for sure.
Well, we've certainly learned a lot today. So if
Yeah.
you want to learn more about gardening and gardening terminology, wow, visit extension.illinois.edu. Emily, as always, great information.
Yes, thank
Always
you.
enjoy having you on the show.
My pleasure, guys.